All right. So we have Lakers versus Thunder today. And we got the news last game, kind of during the game, the announcers were talking about there wouldn't be a LeBron for at least this upcoming road trip. And, then the news dropped from Clutch Sports and other media outlets that there wouldn't, that LeBron was going to miss at least these next two games. And so going into this game, we've now got a similar matchup to the last time they faced the Thunder, except this time, Kyle Kuzma is healthy and hopefully he's going to be healthy for the whole game. And so that could be a difference maker that you see tonight. And really, I expect a lot of similarities to the last time they played. I expect the Lakers to come out with more fire and intensity than they did against the Cavs and Bulls against the Thunder, just because they know they are a better team. I expect Lonzo to continue to take his matchup against Westbrook seriously. This is only going to be Lonzo and Westbrook's second time matching up against each other ever. In their first time lined up against each other, Westbrook shot 2 of 11 from the field. He did have a triple-double and the Thunder won, but he had a historically bad triple-double that no one had since the 1970s. So it wasn't like Russell Westbrook was impressive. A lot of it was kind of Paul George, who kind of, took over in that fourth quarter down the stretch. And so, and the Lakers didn't necessarily have a lot of spacing and players to kind of match that. They had KCP and Hart on the court and others that kind of got taken advantage of defensively at times against Paul George. And so today you're not necessarily going to have to see that, because hopefully we do have Kuzma on the court late. Although just this last game you saw Kuzma bench the entire fourth quarter due to defensive issues. Like, he wasn't performing properly on the defensive end and doing the things Luke Walton wanted. And so he got benched for the fourth quarter last game, in which he didn't come back in until the 1 minute and 14 second mark of that quarter. And so that's going to be interesting as well, to kind of see how Kuzma plays defense, in this lineup. I mean, the Thunder, they had, with between Steven Adams, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook, they're all a little. They're not necessarily in Kuzma's range. Paul George, you may see Kuzma on a little bit throughout the night. He may get switched on to Russell Westbrook, but he's going to be on other players that aren't going to be as big of a scoring threat. And so I hope that can also help Kuzma, be a better scorer tonight and more efficient, since he won't have to work as hard on the defensive end. And so I'm really hoping Kuzma can step up tonight and fill that void for us. But to get back into the specifics of a Lonzo versus Westbrook matchup, I really like Lonzo's chances, and I really think they have a lot of similarities in their game. I mean, Russell Westbrook was a 3-star athlete and coming out of high school, and he was more of just a pure athlete. And Lonzo's athleticism has really been underrated. And now that you've seen him in the league, you see that he's actually a top athlete at the point guard position, that he's a solid defender, and there's a lot of things he does well. And he has been struggling across the board. Like, I'm not going to lie on that, especially the free throw shooting. That has to change. And Kuzma has his moments. I mean, but if there's something that you should really notice, Lonzo isn't a big talker, right? So you've noticed in these last few games, Lonzo's talking more with actions and even with his hands. He's directing traffic more, and he's been clapping, like calling for the ball like crazy. Like, he trying to get his teammates to, stop trying to go ISO and to get him the ball back and, get better movement between everything else, right? And so there's a lot of things that can kind of go into that. And so tonight, I really want to see Lonzo take a bigger step forward than the last time they played each other. And I can even transfer over here so y'all can see some of these stats here. Let me see. Yeah, okay, so the last time they played each other, if you look right here, you can see, I mean, Lonzo, he only went 1 of 4 from the field. He almost looked a little unengaged as far as shooting the ball. Russell Westbrook is a pretty solid defender. I mean, but he stopped shooting, and he only had 7 assists, and while he was playing solid defense on Westbrook, some of that can just be, pushed to the side as if some of that can just be pushed to the side as though, Russell Westbrook just missed or he's inefficient anyway, right? And so we need to see Lonzo have a game like he had against the Bulls or even the Cavs, the Mavericks. I mean, he just has to show the constant effort in attempting to shoot. Like, I don't even mind if he goes out there and has a bad game and he goes 3 of 13 again like he did against the Jazz. I can't go see, or I can't sit through, I mean, I'm going to, but I don't want to watch Lonzo shoot 1 of 4 again against the Thunder tonight in 35 minutes. I want to see him continue to be aggressive, because you saw last night he started 0 for 4 from 3, and then he caught fire in that third quarter. So, I mean, that's part of it with any player. The problem is when Lonzo gets off to that, bad stretch to start, he stops shooting. And that's something he has to kind of get over in his own head and kind of understand that he does have to continue to shoot just so he continues to be looked at as a threat. I mean, and again, because his percentages are raising, I mean, again, his 40% and 33% don't look great. But again, they're improvements from last year. They're improvements from his overall career, even though it's only his second year. And then it's an improvement from, and then if you go the last 20 games, he's shooting a better percentage in both. So he didn't have an off season, and he was coming off the bench to start some of the year. He had his minutes going back and forth because of Rondo. And so he hasn't fully developed a rhythm. The more Rondo's been out, the more rhythm you see him kind of get into. He's getting more shots up, both in practice and in the games, than he was all summer. Because all summer he wasn't able to work on his game. So you're seeing a lot of the work happen in these games. And, I mean, if you just look from the Knicks game on, he hasn't had a single game where he didn't shoot over 2 threes. And really, if you exclude the Thunder game, he's been doing that essentially every game. So the Thunder game, he kind of laid a dud, but Russell Westbrook is a good defender, so maybe he didn't want to. Or maybe he was exerting a lot already trying to defend Westbrook, who knows. And then he obviously laid the dud against the Timberwolves, but that was when, I mean, if we're looking at that game, Luke started 2 centers. Lonzo completely didn't look like he was trying, and Lonzo even got benched as he only played 23 minutes. So if you almost kind of just exclude that game and look at the rest of these, I mean, his biggest problem has just been a lack of shooting the ball. Because in a lot of these games, if you just look at the Thunder and Pistons game, well, the Pistons game they won, he controlled the tempo well, he just didn't shoot a lot. So I guess you can, just kind of exclude that one too, and then you've got and then that's pretty much it, right? And then every other game, he was 7 of 16, 6 of 14, 6 of 13, 8 of 15, 3 of 13, 5 of 14, 8 of 17, which aren't great. Like, not a lot of those are great percentages, but it's better than seeing Lonzo shoot 0 for 4. You want to see him continue to push the issue, because you can even look in all of those games, his assists and rebounds on average are just higher. And he continues to play better. And even if you look right now, I mean, people have been looking at the defensive end because he hasn't been as good individually locking up some of these guards like I've been talking about that he does. But I told you before this stretch started that Lonzo wasn't going to be playing as much man-on-man defense and lockdown defense over the next couple games as he was prior, because his assignments and their game plan are going to change. Because prior, his role on the team was defense. They were giving LeBron the ball, all kinds of different things. And so good point guard, bad point guard didn't matter. Lonzo's role was the same. not only has his role changed to where he has to do more, including still on the defensive end, but now they're not playing great teams, and some of these teams have players that he has to help out more on. And that's why you see him holding all-star point guards to a lower field goal percentage than he is non-all-star point guards. And I really think a lot of that, one, is the entire Lakers defense is, tuning in more on a premier point guard than they are going to a non-premier, and that includes Lonzo Ball. Because if you just look at some of the games like the Pistons in which Reggie Jackson went off, Lonzo was huge on help defense. And then just look at these last 5 games, Lonzo has 2 steals a game minimum each of these games. So over the last 5, he's averaging 2 steals a game with, I would have to do the math real quick, 12, 20, 31, 36 divided by 5. And so he's averaging like 7.1 assists, right? So 7.1 assists, 2 steals, and whatever points he's averaging to go with those rebounds, which are all improvements. And when you look at that, the Lakers are still 3-2 over those last 5. Like, granted, yes, they dropped to the Cavaliers, and that made it look worse. But just since Kyle Kuzma returned, they are 3-2. They lost to the Jazz in Utah, which is expected. LeBron has a losing record in Utah. I said that beforehand. Even if LeBron was playing in that game, he doesn't give us a better chance to necessarily win that game. Because LeBron doesn't go to Utah and win often. He loses more often than he wins in Utah. And then you look at the Cavs. I mean, yeah, we should not have dropped that game, but that wasn't just on Lonzo. Everyone shot horrible. Lonzo was not great shooting either. And the only one who at all kind of shot well was Kuzma, but he just caught fire in that fourth quarter to make the game closer than it should have been. And so, and so we'll kind of, I'll show you this here for a second. It's something that we were looking at, and this was a point I was trying to make about the way Lonzo gets his assists and what he does on the basketball court. I mean, if you doubled this percentage and gave him what would be the second highest percentage on this list, he would also have the second highest assist total on this list. And so part of it is Lonzo doesn't have a high enough usage rate to have the assists that a lot of these other guards have. And on top of that, a contingency to that is he's also not a good enough scorer at the moment to warrant having the ball 25% of the time plus for all of those plays. And so I can understand a lot of different parts of aspects of that. But again, he has been shooting such a better percentage and over these games. And you can tell when he is controlling the offense, they're just playing better. Like they are across the board. I mean, their offense moves better. And everyone is scoring, properly instead of everyone kind of going into these different ISOs and everything else. And so a big part of it is going to be Lonzo to continuing to develop that. And then, like I was saying, he has been shooting better. And this isn't even to take into account what I'm showing you here. This isn't even to look at the fact that he's shooting better over his last 20 games, nearly 40% from three-point range. And so he's increasing his three-point percentage and getting better as he's, gotten the time to do so. And he's similar throughout this point in the season to a lot of other shooters in this league. And I mean, some of them, and yeah, I didn't have room to put everybody, but I even put Josh Hart at the bottom of this list because a lot of people have been giving Josh Hart a hard time because he's been shooting horrible since LeBron went out of the lineup, like 18% from 3 or whatever the number is. But even with this current stretch of Josh Hart shooting bad, he has still made 2 more threes than Lonzo Ball on 4 less attempts. So Josh Hart can still shoot. He's taking a lot in a way less amount of time. Like, he's just playing less minutes, and a lot of his shots have been coming from 3. And so when you just continue to compile average three-point shooting and they go through, rough stretches, it looks really bad for the Lakers. I mean, and it just will. But like even if you look at these stats, the with and without LeBron over the last over the entire stretch with no LeBron, but they have their entire lineup, Lonzo's averaging 14.6, 6.3, 7.5, 1.6, 43.5, and 36.5, and they're 4-4 over this stretch, and yeah, that's excluding 3 games. But if we go over here, you can see the 3 game numbers in which they did take a dip, but he didn't have Kyle Kuzma, who him and Kuzma have pretty much played almost all of their games together since Summer League last year. So Lonzo hasn't had a ton of experience in the NBA playing without Kuzma. And so not only did he go without LeBron, now you take away Kuzma. I mean, the team wasn't going to win many of those games. And so for the media to constantly spin it like, oh, it was only the fact that they are without LeBron, they're 4-7 without LeBron, that's how much they need him. Well, yes, they obviously need LeBron. I'm not saying they don't, and they really need him in the first and fourth quarters. But what they're really leaving out is they continue to gloss over Rondo's been out this whole stretch, which means they don't really have a backup point guard. And then on top of that, you know, Kuzma went out for a 3-game stretch, and that affected not only his rhythm, but that affected the entire team during that stretch. That's constant lineup changes, rotation changes. I mean, Luke Walton even had to try 2 centers. It obviously was not going to end well for anybody. And so that'll kind of get me into tonight and what I expect out of Russell Westbrook against Lonzo. Last time he had a triple-double and they went 2 of 11. Now, before they had played that game, all I had heard was Russell Westbrook had been inefficient and he hadn't been playing well. Okay, well now, if you just go back to the Mavericks game right before the Lakers, or I mean, even if you want to just go right after they played the Lakers, Russell Westbrook has been playing way more efficiently and has been playing better on the offensive end. Like, just across the board, you can look at the numbers. He's nearly shooting 50% every night, and it's been a lot better than some of the other outings we've seen him have. And you've even seen him have a 24-24 night, which was, you know, a historic type triple-double that he had against the Spurs. And so down the list, you have seen Westbrook be more efficient on that end. And so tonight, if Lonzo holds Russell Westbrook to another similar shooting night, I shouldn't have to hear the same things that Russell Westbrook was doing coming into this game. Because then if you look at his last 10 games, Russell Westbrook's actually been efficient, excluding 2 games against the Lakers and 1 against the Mavs. And the one against the Mavericks, he came back and answered that following game with a triple-double, scoring over 50 or shooting over 50%. And so Russell Westbrook, I mean, he is one of those type of players that gets heated, takes things personal, and plays with energy every game. And so I think he knows he obviously shot bad last time they played the Lakers, even though they won, and he's going to want that to be different this time around. And so he could possibly have a much better night, and I'm not expecting him to be historically bad. I'm going to say Russell Westbrook shoots somewhere around 7 of 21 on the night, because if you just look over his last 10 games, he doesn't have really many games where he doesn't shoot that many shots, right? So I'm thinking he has to shoot 21 shots tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and give him 7. Now, the percent of those on Lonzo directly, I'm not sure. I would say maybe he has 10 points directly on Lonzo, and he'll have somewhere around 16 to 18 for the night on 21 attempts. Like, I think it'll be an inefficient night for Russell Westbrook. I just don't think it'll be 3 of 20 bad. Like, that was pretty horrendous, and so I'm expecting a slight change. But again, I'm focusing on that because this is obviously Lonzo's going to be going up against premier guard after premier guard, like I've been kind of saying. And if you look at this list, this starts a list of non-stop great point guards Lonzo's about to be playing against. Between Russell Westbrook, James Harden, who's currently playing a lot of point guard, really. Curry, Teagan Rose, who Rose is having one of his best years since his MVP season. The 76ers, Ben Simmons, Collison, Kyrie Irving. So they're going to have this huge stretch, and so he's going to have to not only play defense, but especially in these next two games without LeBron, we have to see a continued, we have to see continued stats similar to what I was showing you in those other games for Lonzo. Like, he has to come into these other games, and even if he has a bad shooting night, he has to shoot 5 of 14. He can't go out there and shoot 0 for 4, 0 for 5. He has to show the engagement, and if he goes 8 of 14, 7 of 14, well, hey, that's even better. We will take it. But again, I will live with 5 of 14, 6 of 14 most nights out of Lonzo if he's continuing to be aggressive in every other area, which it's showing that he is when he continues to shoot the ball. And so I'm really hoping we continue to see that out of him. And because we really didn't see it last time he played the Thunder. Like, he was a little unengaged except for on the defensive end. And so, and that's been a lot of people's problem with Lonzo so far, is when you kind of think about it, like, he has shown us an exceptional ability to do a lot of different things on the court, except he hasn't put it all together. He showed in one game he could potentially score maybe even potentially 30, 40 points. Now, he only scored 29, I know, but he did it on 27 shots, and that was his second career game. And again, the last game they played just now against the Bulls was his second most field goal attempts in his career at 17. So you've seen a 10 field goal attempt drop in difference, and you're seeing him become a better shooter. So at some point, if he can become, to where he's getting what are high quality and good shots, and for him at that point, because he'll have added more to his arsenal, I think that'll be huge for him. And we've seen him already add things game by game, because you've seen Rondo apparently has been helping him with his finishing around the rim and doing a bunch of little things that are helping him progress. And so you're just going to continue to see that, kind of game by game, and it's really going to be, intriguing what they can do tonight. And then as far as Kyle Kuzma, he has been really inefficient, kind of since he came back, excluding that 41-point game. And now he did go 11 of 23 against the Cavs, but again, it was that 1/4 quarter he got hot, and they were already kind of too far down. And again, he hasn't been playing defense. And so they need to come together as a whole. Like, the last 5 games since Kuzma's been back, I think he has 1 steal and 0 blocks. So he's averaging 0.2 steals and 0 blocks a game over these last 5 games. He's not doing a whole lot defensively. And then you've got players like Lonzo who are active in all parts of the game, and that's something that we want to continue to see. But again, we're going to track, everything he does against Russell Westbrook on the defensive end of the ball, and we're going to track how some of that defense turns into offense. Because that's a big part of how Lonzo can become great, is turning defense into offense. And I really want to see Luke Walton have Lonzo go to the low block more, and I want to see more entry passes where Lonzo's kind of playing with his back to the basket, and he's able to kind of dish out to, and he's kind of able to dish out of that low block area, or even make a move on a point guard because he has superior height. And so I saw that a lot against the Mavs, and I haven't seen it a ton since. And as far as Brandon Ingram goes, he's actually been one of the more efficient players for the Lakers over these games. And he's getting a bad rap too. And so I constantly don't understand how major media can spin it like Lonzo and B.I. are bust. I get their number 2 picks, but yes, B.I. has been hasn't had as many big-time games as you'd want him to have, but he has been consistently scoring in double digits again and again and again, game after game. I mean, here, let me just even pull up his stats real quick. And so you can even just look at this, and Brandon Ingram across the board, he is consistently scoring in double digits. The problem people have had with him has actually just been the fact that he's not having those big-time games like a 40-piece like Kuzma put out. But Brandon Ingram is not by any means a bust. He has been a consistent scorer that is also improving and shooting 47%. And since LeBron has went out, is shooting 53%. So like you see Kuzma is playing well, and a lot of it has been misconstrued because he did have that one game against the Timberwolves that he went 5 of 16. But again, he only played 25 minutes too, and I don't think him or Lonzo were very excited about the fact that they had to play with 2 centers in the starting lineup. And so I think that's kind of what they may have had a discussion about going forward and how it's got to be on them. And since then, you've seen an even bigger change out of both of them. I mean, yeah, he still had a 10-point game against the Pistons, but they won that game, and he's been scoring double digits nonstop. Like, I'd be interested to look at his game log over this span of the season because, I mean, he could really be a player that could continue to just put up a minimum of 10 points a game and continue to score. Much like you've seen LeBron go on those streaks, it's going to be hard to stop him from scoring 10 points a game. And so the people who think he's a bust, that they're kidding themselves. He hasn't had the as many wow moments as you would have wanted. But he's been consistency. Then Lonzo, on the other hand, he's had so many wow moments, but he hasn't had the consistency. If the Lakers could just combine the 2 players into one, well, they would have a superstar right this second. But they're only second and third year players, and I really think people are rushing it just because a few other select superstars have been that good in their second or third seasons. But go look at James Harden, who right now is arguably the best offensive player in the game, or at least very well. He's on a stretch right now that no one has done basically since Wilt Chamberlain and Kobe Bryant, and he's even, passing up what Kobe kind of did. He's just taking a lot more free throws. And well, I don't personally love James Harden. I mean, at this point, you just have to respect it. You don't have a choice. Like, if you're not respecting what he's doing on the court, you are just hating. Like, and yes, there's free throws involved, and the refs give him some calls, and he flops. But again, other people could do that, and they're not scoring 58 or, right after they scored 50. I mean, Harden's just playing amazing. And so B.I. has been consistent and really is a lot better than people have made him out to be. And that's why I think him and Lonzo are just getting a bad rap. Like, people are making it seem like Kuzma and Josh Hart are the better 2 of the Lakers 4, when that's not true. They just have overplayed their draft position. Kuzma is a much better scorer than we anticipated when they drafted him. But there's plenty of areas Kuzma's lacked in his game, but he gives you those exciting, 40-point games and has those exciting moments to go with. Now he's averaging 18 points a game, so no one cares about what other area that he lacks in because of that, or what areas he's down in or where he needs to improve and how he's digressed. Instead, you're hearing Kuzma's taken the biggest step forward, and I don't think that's true. I really still think it's Lonzo and B.I. who have taken the biggest steps in their game since last season. You just can't fully see it on the stats unless you continue to break it down game by game, because, I mean, LeBron was there for a huge part, which affected Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball more than anyone. Josh Hart and Kuzma are the ones who you've seen the Lakers give almost a specific role to. Hart this entire time has been running around screens, shooting threes, doing, playing defense, playing a specific role for the Lakers. Kuzma has been cutting to the basket, shooting threes. He's been doing a lot of the work regardless. The same thing he was doing last year, he does this year with LeBron, with Lonzo. You haven't seen their roles change. You've seen Brandon Ingram and Lonzo have to change their role and find a way to still be effective and contribute in the game in a lot of areas. And I think you're seeing that grow their overall game in a way that is going to be very beneficial for the Lakers, not only in this postseason, but come next season and into the future. And so they've really got a chance here, and that's why I'm fully against trading any of the young core across the board. I think if you trade any of them, it's a pretty big mistake. I mean, and maybe you could get away with if you traded. You could find a way to trade Hart and picks and KCP for someone, but really, I just the core I really think will fit well together and better than people think, especially when Lonzo continues to develop as a 3-point shooter, which you're seeing. I mean, you're seeing the fact that, how many players can you actually name in the league that have a better step back 3-point shot right now than Lonzo does? Like, he's making it consistently at this point, and that's not necessarily an easy shot. Now, he's not making the easy threes, and those are something you need him to do better at. But again, it's just showing an improvement in an ability to get shots. And so that's something that Harden is doing. Harden takes a ton of threes a game, and if Lonzo took 15, 16, 17 threes a game, who knows how many he would make, right? Harden just had a 1 of 17 3-point shooting night, and he's just continuing to shoot unconsciously. And so that's a big part of, a player's development is realizing that, they can continue to shoot and that it doesn't matter if they make or miss. That they have to continue to stay and push, kind of push the envelope and get it going. And so I'm going to kind of wrap up with my final predictions for the night before I end this. I think the Thunder win tonight, and I think they're going to win 103-95. And yeah, I'm going to predict the Thunder to win, and part of that's only because every time I predict the Lakers to lose or struggle, they actually win. And so part of it's just me hoping that I'm going to predict wrong again, but I really think the Thunder just they have more talent than the Lakers are going to be able to keep up with without LeBron. And it's going to be the first game of the road trip. They did just come off a win, and yeah, they are a little more urgent than the Thunder to get wins, but I think they will probably end up losing tonight. And I'm really going to give them a strong chance to go into Houston and win. Just because it's only James Harden and the Lakers, and they're not going to have Capella and a lot of other pieces, and the Lakers switch well and match up well. And so I really think you could see them, depending on how many foul calls James Harden gets, I really think you could see them, finally kind of contain James Harden in that game. And that may be the first game in a while you've seen James Harden have less than 30 points. And so I think we could see that be a possibility. But again, maybe not. And so I kind of think that tonight is going to be the night they kind of, lose. Just because over the next 2 games, if LeBron's only out 2, he could be out 3 with Golden State as well. You really need the Lakers to go at least 1-2 if LeBron doesn't play over the next 3. And that starts with going 1-for-1 now. Like, the Warriors game is going to be even tougher, but you got to win one of these next 2 games, because if LeBron is out all 3, you just can't afford to lose all 3 games and, slip even further to 4-10 without LeBron. And the NBA standings at that point, the Lakers would be like the 10th seed. And so they would have fallen pretty far out of where they were when LeBron got injured. And so I'm really hoping that they can kind of come together tonight and do that. And then as far as Lonzo's stat line, I'm going to go ahead and say Lonzo, just looking at his recent games, I'm going to say Lonzo has 15, 7, and 7. I'm going to go with 15, 7, 7, another 2 steals, and a block. And that's going to go ahead and be my prediction for the night. And again, we will be back post-game for more Lakers versus Thunder talk, and I will recap on what happened for the game. And we are also live every Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. to give you an entire slate of NBA action and talk about the entire league. Thank you for tuning in to Unique Sports Live, and we will see you next time. Thank you.